Apart from moving a quarter of the way across the country a few weeks ago, I've also, I've been being an idiot for sure, but I've very busy. Because since the last time I played Dauntless, there's actually been quite a few changes, but to name a few things that have changed, well, there are new behemoths such as the Phalanx and the Bloodshot Shroud, there's new Omni Cells which didn't exist back in my day, and the new progression system that is a lot more time consuming, although you'd be forgiven for saying I'm just being nice when I say that, but that's mostly because I am. I'm not actually a big fan of it at all, to be honest. I think it takes way too long, and I think Aether Hearts were a bad idea, but hey, that's just me. Anyway, that stuff, as you could probably imagine, it's not what I've gathered you here to say today, but instead it's something that popped into my head while I was collapsing the skull of every behemoth I could get my chain blades tightly and yet surprisingly tenderly wrapped around. I'm not too sure why I actually said that now that I think about it. That's quite sexually active. Let's just forget about that. While I was smacking a Nezayaga, no, fuck, I hate pronouncing that shit properly because every time I call him a Nezayaga instead of Nezaga because fuck it, I like Nezayaga better. Deal with it. Anyway, just before I cracked his cranium open, I pulled an autistic memory out of the vault in my brain of a game that I used to jam back when I was about 8ish, I'd say. That game being Rampage Total Destruction for the PS2. And just in case anyone who wants to know why Dauntless reminded me of a game that came back in 2006, well, it's because this fucker reminded me of Lizzie. Not that one though, that ain't my girl. My girl is a green and yellow dinosaur, that's just a fucking crocodile.
Nice try, Brickhead, but you know damn well you're only making this video because you got well and truly clattered with me the other night and thought it was a good idea.
Thanks, Dave. Funnily enough, they weren't actually supposed to know that part. Anyway, I'd say that's enough about Dauntless for now, even though I can't stop talking about it, it's actually a fucking problem. And it's time we firmly plant our fists into the side of a building after downing a six-pack. So sit your mutated asses down because it's time for a Willkak's Guide to Rampage Total Destruction. Right, let's get stuck in, shall we? Rampage is actually a very old series now that I'm actually thinking about it out loud. It was created by Midway Studios back in the 1980s, although let's be fair here, most people would have either just forgotten about it or not known about it at all until they saw the movie with Dwayne "The Cock" Johnson in it. The series is most recognisable for its three main characters, those being Ralph the Wolf, George the Monkey, and Glizzy the Dinosaur. In the Rampage series, you basically just take control of one of these monsters or a few others and just go around and destroy everything, hence the name being Rampage. But enough about the history of giant monkeys, we must press on forward, although that does sound like a tempting idea for a video, but we must actually start discussing the actual game now. So the game starts off with a sequence of logos, like a lot of others do, but unlike other games that just show you some companies, that's really pretty boring. Instead we see a poorly rendered George hop out of nowhere and demolish said logo. Now this has nothing to do with anything, but I thought it was more entertaining than the movie itself, so I just thought I'd mention it. The game starts with a cutscene where George, in his human form before he goes back to monkey, is participating in a taste test for Scum Soda, pitting it up against what I'm pretty sure isn't a fizzy carbonated beverage for, to offer refreshment to the whole family on a scorching summer's day. No, I'm pretty sure that's a can of piss, which, to be honest, I mean, give it here, am I right? I mean, am I right or am I drunk? I don't fucking know. So Scum Soda, the hip new drink that's well, I'm just gonna let Georgie Porgy over here explain what it tastes like.
Wow, that's good soda. It's like there's a party in my mouth.
I'd say I was sorry about him getting mutated, but by the look of him, he's already suffering from some sort of genetic condition anyway. So it turns out old Monkey Boy wasn't the only one who got absolutely blasted after drinking some scum, and it turns out 30 people have actually had negative reactions after drinking it. Or, to be more specific, 30 absolute fuckwits who thought drinking it in the first place was a brilliant idea.
So what you're saying is that we've got 30 of these monsters running around loose somewhere.
So the boss naturally starts getting pissed because, let's face it, he's woken up in the middle of a PR nightmare. But fear not, because this Puffin that looks like he's from the Spy vs. Spy universe explains that they've actually managed to contain the test group in special cryogenic containers to prevent them from going on a... I promise this will be the only time I make that joke. Let us continue.
I've also taken the added precaution of having the cryotubes hidden, where it's highly unlikely that anyone is ever going to find them.
Oh yeah, mate, I bet they were extremely well hidden and not in a few select buildings within blocks of each other in the exact same cities. Then this youthful Jeremy Clarkson looking dickhead says,
Besides, what's a few cases of genetic mutation?
Once again, this has nothing to do with nothing, I just wanted to point it out. Oh yeah, and then he fucking dies. Okay, so that's the opening cutscene over, and I've just got a few things I want to bring up about that whole ordeal that don't really make some sense to me. The first of which being, what a shit name for a product you want people to put anywhere near their mouths. I mean, scum, come on, you could have thought of something better than that. And fuck me, I want to see the ingredients list. So, Dr. Willkak, you said this drink presents certain health risks, is that correct?
Yes, sir, I'm afraid that is so. And to be quite frank with you, I'm actually astonished and amazed that this managed to make it past the Health and Safety Board because, well, this is rather a cocktail of malicious shit and it is definitely not fit for human consumption, and I'm stunned no one could see that from the onset, to be honest.
How do you mean, sir?
Well, why don't we just take a look at the ingredients list, shall we? So what we have here, half a pint of silver nitrate, 3 1/4 gallons of uranium, 2 whole pickled onions, you dodgy bastards, 50 grams of soil with a pH of exactly 15, and yet the scale only goes up to 14. I cannot even fathom how that has even happened. I mean, that's about as basic as a 15-year-old girl on Instagram. Specifically, it says here, in parentheses, specifically a girl called Jimmer. And most astonishingly of all, so I've got to say, the essence of roughly 10 million bananas.
Yes, well, that's all very interesting, Doctor, but what's your point here?
Well, the point is, sir, there's too many bananas, mate. That shit'll fucking kill someone.
So now we get to the actual gameplay, and it's a simple equation for sure. It's just big mutated bastard plus populated area equals where the fuck did the city go. So what this basically means is you roam around a city block punching, kicking and smashing the shit out of all the buildings until all that remains is, well, nothing I guess, not even a pile of rubble, or until time runs out. When you crack open a building, apart from eating the poor man, woman or child that was inside, you also find blue food items that can give your health back, red items that are just rather suspect shit like radioactive material, a cactus and some bad pussy. There's also a lemon. Now I'll admit, all of that red shit is pretty bad for you, but not as bad as when the people living in the house, or I should say apartment really because it's in the city, have Niagara fucking Falls in the living room, or a thunderstorm and an explosion chilling at the dining table ready to pounce and blow you out to the fucking street line. In short, don't be like me, check what's behind the wall before punching it. Then again, you are playing as morons like this, so you could actually consider it a form of roleplay to just punch everything and eat everything suspect that you want. Speaking of playable characters, oh god, there are some right lookers in this bunch. We've got the classic trio, along with Gilbert, Calamari, Marco Polo, and... wait, is that fucking Gordon Ramsay?
You're making me mad!
Fuck yeah, I'm playing as Ramsay. But don't you worry, Ramsay isn't the only famous chef we have in this lineup. We also have our favourite Disney princess, Remy from Ratatouille.
Remy, what are you doing? Paris is 220 miles that way. Remember what Linguini said about stealing ingredients? Now you're stealing people's lives.
Okay, so that's the game itself for the most part, apart from the boss fights, but really, I kind of don't want to talk about too much because, well, kiddos, I gotta say, either me or this game did not age well, or either that or I have the attention span of a goldfish, because fuck me, I got bored extremely quickly, and just for reference, the other day, I spent a whole 8 hours playing Dauntless farming Agarus, it's Agarus, to build my first set of legendary chain blades, and well, I now have 4 sets of chain blades, and that's not the point I should be talking about. For now, we have to finish the job at hand. I've actually jumped slightly forward into the part where I talk about all the things I'm not particularly fond of about this game, and there I go, making it sound way nicer than it is. So, as I implied before, this game is extremely repetitive. You arrive in a new city, you break down the city block by block, dealing with the ridiculous amounts of stuns and staggers until you reach the next city, where you rinse and repeat until the game is over. After my first hour stint of this, I was honestly done with it, and I didn't want to pick it up again. And I was quite honestly dreading it even as I was sitting here writing the script. And, well, how do you think I feel past Willkak? I'm the fucker who actually has to go and deal with that shit now, you lazy bastard. Despite my negativity of wanting to come back and doing it again, I did end up coming back and finishing the game to be rewarded with a cutscene where basically it turns out, hey, the sales are through the roof because everyone wants to turn into these giant monsters, which, faith in the human race, it's really quite a fickle thing. And at least I can say I didn't really lose interest too far off the mark, so I didn't have to play too much more of it. Only 2 cities and that was me done. Apart from being repetitive as hell, this game also suffers from Rabbid Syndrome, and if you don't know what I mean, go watch my video on Raving Rabbids too, because I don't want to talk about it ever again, and hopefully I'll never have to. All I'll say is that I don't remember this shit being quite so prevalent in the game, and if you watch the gameplay back, you will see it almost constantly. And when I was young, I didn't see any of this, so... Then again, goldfish brain, but oh, fucking kill me. I feel so sorry for this poor woman as well. That is a fate worse than death, which I probably shouldn't be saying because she did die. So here's my final verdict on this game. It's fun for about the first half hour, But then you get bored and want to run away crying for salvation from an all too vacant god or whatever deity you happen to find yourself pleading to in your times of strife. 4 out of 10. Well, that about wraps up my ramblings, and yet it's also time for me to ramble into the bushes across the car park and wait until... Actually, before I do that, why does everyone keep bringing up the heat death of the universe all of a sudden? I know it's a parable for waiting a really long time. It's just a question I felt like asking because it's a bit strange. No need to read into it or anything. I think everyone's just copying each other. And since I'm actually asking questions and people copying each other, here's a question I've got for you. If you enjoyed what you saw here today and want to see more of me or anything I've done so far, I'd consider subscribing because then you get to see more of, well, me. And make sure to like the video as well. And also, here's a fun thing. Why don't you show it to someone you like as well and see if they still like you afterwards. It also helps me to know whether people actually like what I'm doing here. Well, that's all from me, team. I'll catch you some other time probably. See you later.